Frank Corrado is a former Vancouver Canuck. He's a TSN hockey analyst, and he's a peacemaker between Zach Kassian and Kevin Bieksa in elevators.
He is indeed. We had a chat with Mr. Duthie
We're springing
yesterday.
this on Frank. We gave him no forewarning of this, but we had Duthie on the show yesterday and the Certified Beauties book. And we're like, okay, well, what kind of Vancouver Canucks stories are in the book? And, well, he had one about Frank Corrado. We got the clip here, Mike. Are we going to play Frank the clip?
Like your typical Rocky Balboa, blackest of black eyes. And the next day they have their exit meetings. And so he's got to go in and sit down with Mike Gillis. And Mike Gillis knows that Frankie Corrado didn't get a black eye from a high stick or whatever in the series. He watched the games. And so this rookie who's been there for a week, basically, or 2 weeks, has to sit down with Mike Gillis with this complete black eye. He said, by the way, Gillis handled it, didn't really say anything. He wasn't sure if Gillis knew or didn't know, if somebody told him. He says Gillis made some sort of sly remark at the end, like, watch yourself in elevators.
A heavyweight tilt in an elevator.
What's the story here, Corrado?
Man, what a night that was. I gotta give you a little bit of context here. And Bieksa has told this story on other podcasts before, so it's definitely been out there. But for those that don't know, it was after the San Jose series where we lost in 4. And listen, everyone likes to have a few libations after you lose. It's kind of normal.
Close it out. Yeah.
But I'm, picture me 2-3 weeks prior to this, living in a billet house in Kitchener, basically sheltered. And we fast forward 3 weeks. I've now played 7 NHL games. I'm living in downtown Vancouver. I'm at, certain establishments in the city there, AKA the Roxy and other places like that. And this is our, we're out. And for some reason, Kassian and Bieksa had been going at it all night, just jawing at each other, chirping at each other. And you know the way both those guys are, they're not going to let up in any way.
No.
So I guess we were going to some kind of after party, something like that. And we were in an elevator, the 4 of us, me, Cass, Juice, and Andrew Ebbett. And for some reason, it all boiled over in this elevator as we are going up. And now they're going at it big time, swinging, punches, grabbing each other. And me and Ebbett are in the middle of it, trying to break it up. As this is happening, the elevator stalls. It stops because
you guys are shaking it. There's 7,000 pounds shaking the elevator, probably.
There's 200 times 4. There's 800 pounds in there, shaking, throwing punches, kind of getting wild. So as the elevator stalls, we realize it's stalled. I'm in the middle of it. I eat a punch, and I'm pretty sure it was a Kassian punch, and I eat this thing right to the eye.
My mouth hurts.
And so now, I'm kind of shaken up. We get we have to get them to help us in the elevator to get to a floor where we can get off, right? Because if you're halfway in between, you can't get off that thing. It's dangerous to slide through. So enough time goes on. We're pressing the button. We finally get to a floor. Everything seems to be okay, but now I got to pick up the pieces as far as what Duthie's saying. I got a black eye. I didn't acquire it while playing hockey for the Vancouver Canucks, and we have exit meetings the next day, and I don't know, I didn't have to explain because it kind of didn't need an explanation, but I walk into the GM of the NHL team, his office with a black eye, and and try and get through that. So yeah, it was interesting. 3 weeks ago, living in a billet house, and then fast forward, black eye, exit meeting with the GM.
Yeah, well, the good news is Gillis has tact. He's pretty cool customer in these scenarios. At least that's been my experience. Not that I'm familiar with him, being aware of other elevator fights amongst his.
Oh my God!
Amongst his players. How does the story end? Does everybody make it to the after party and get along because they know they've got collateral damage here and poor rookie Frank Corrado?
Or do we call it a night at that point?
So no after party at that point. We're probably deep into the night. We're 4 a.m. for sure. Between 3 and 4 a.m. So no after party. Everything kind of cooled off. like Juice went home, Cass went home, but Cass was definitely still a little fired up. So I remember shooting Juice a note like, "Hey, bud, I know you're walking home. Just like keep a lookout because the big cat's on the loose out there."
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Crazy eyes coming through the alley.
Well, we said to Duthie yesterday, like, I mean, I know Kevin's tough. He's Hamilton tough, but good God, Kassian, like, what are you thinking?
And
like,
before, Cass looked crazy with the shaved head, but when he didn't have the shaved head, that afro of his was all sorts of wow.
Ogie Oglethorpe, right?
Yeah, he was Oglethorpe. He was.
It was
crazy.
I Afraidy-esque, like
yeah.
Skullet kind of I Afraidy-esque. So
It was something
that
else.
was like a little bit of a, call it an introduction or a crash course to life in the NHL, but I didn't really have that on my bingo card.
No, I don't think so.
By the way, buy James Duthie's book. He needs the money.
Yeah, we're worried about him. We're worried about him.
He's working it. Let's help James make money.
He should make a couple of appearances on other podcasts to try to sell this book.
He was very organized, I must say, yesterday when he came on the show. Did you catch the Canucks game last night?
So I caught like pieces of it and watched the recap today. And I think it goes without saying, teams at this point in the season are happy to be in the fight against the Colorado Avalanche. Like, that's just the reality of how good they are at this point. And like Vancouver losing 3-1. Yeah, they're right there in this game. There's a lot of teams that would be like to be right there with the Colorado Avalanche. They're in a class and a league of their own, but that's a tough team to beat. I don't care how well you're playing, how bad you're playing. They're a wagon right now.
I thought it was funny because I thought it was a decent game. I thought the Canucks played okay.
It was a very good game.
And McKinnon afterwards, like, it was kind of a boring game. Too many whistles. Like, are you kidding me? Like, Shorty twice was like, this is a long stretch without a whistle. Like, we thought it was great, but that tells you what kind of games they've been playing in. And McKinnon's like, no, there's no room out there.
Nathan, you should watch more Canucks hockey. This was a banger.
He's used to playing 3.5 hour, 18-hole rounds, and he had to play a 4-hour round last night.
Yeah, that's right.
And like I was doing Habs Sens last night, and it felt like there was a million linesmen kind of reshuffling of face-offs and adjusting sticks and kicked out. And I'm like, then you hear that it's happening, or you see that it's happening in other stadiums. So I kind of wonder if there's like a face-off memo that went out, because if it's happening in multiple stadiums at the same time, that would lead me to believe that like someone's saying, okay, you got to crack down on this.
Yeah. And Foot praised their effort last night, and yesterday or Monday on the show, we were talking to J-Pat. Like, the effort was not lacking in San Jose or in Los Angeles over the weekend, Frank. It's just the center ice position, right? And I'm wondering if you can just break it down in lay terms. Like, when you're not good at center, what does that manifest into on the ice? Like, how does that lead to losing hockey?
It means that you're playing a lot of the game on the exterior of the ice, and you don't get easy avenues into the middle, right? Like, really good centermen. And what I mean by that is guys who, in their own zone, who are in the right position, A, and then B, once they acquire the puck in their own zone in the right position, have sort of separating speed and skills to get away from checks and get through some of the coverage that you have to get through, the different layers. Now that allows you to have options in the middle of the ice, options to the neutral zone, options in the offensive zone. If you don't have that, or you're a second late, or you don't have that kind of speed and skill creativity, you're playing a lot of the game, slapping it up the board, see if you can chip onto a puck, go and chase it. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But at some point, like, you're playing against teams that own sort of the middle of the ice or get to the middle of the ice more than you. And so that's part of the challenge when you don't have that extra element at center ice position. So it makes it a little more difficult. You really have to establish call it like a ground and pound game and be really good at that. And that's not an easy thing to do night in, night out consistently, especially if you're not like necessarily built to be a ground and pound team. So that's kind of I think the bare bones of it, if you just don't have the depth and the high end skill in the middle.
I absolutely saw what you're talking about last night, where Besser's doing good things in the offensive zone, and then all of a sudden the play goes to die on David Kamp's stick, and not because he can't do his role in the NHL, but he's not doing his role. He's doing a second line center role, and that's not him. And because of that, I'm wondering, and it's been a dabble here and there for a guy like Ratu as the second line center, but the ceiling is higher for Ratu. There is more offensive game in Aatu Ratu than there is in David Kampf. Heck, there's more in Max Sasson. Like, I'm surprised Foote still wants to just default to David Kampf as the second line center, when, as imperfect as they are, Sasson and Ratu are more likely to be able to compete and think the same kind of game as Brock Besser does.
I think that just leads to that's experience in the league. That's what you're looking at. You're saying, I know David Kampf has played, how many seasons has he been in the league now? 5-6 years at least, maybe more. And you're saying, I know what he is, but I trust him more with a little more of an elevated role. It's kind of like, there's been times where a third pair defenseman, let's say, starts to play really, really well, and the second pair guy is struggling, and they have to make a lineup decision at some point, and the third pair guy comes out, because he's been playing the sheltered minutes or whatever, and he's the guy that needs to come out, even though the second pair guy is struggling. Well, David Kampf is a fourth line center every day of the week, no matter how you slice it. I have seen so many times where when he was playing in Toronto, they get into a center ice jam, and they try and put David Kampf as the third line center, give him more responsibility, give him more ice time, and expect just a little more offense. And it never could happen. Maybe a game or two here and there, but he's a fourth line center every day of the week. So I agree with you, where I'm like, that's almost a player where you pencil him in and you say, that's just what he is. And regardless of how much experience he has, regardless how much inexperience the other guys have, that's just what this guy needs to be. And I need to ask more from Ratu or Sasson, because there's probably a higher end puck handling, skill package, potential for offense. But when a coach is and a team is trying to lean on veterans as much as they can because you need the points and there's a trust factor, that's what happens in the lineup. But make no mistake about it, David Kampf is a fourth line center, no more than that. And if you're asking more from him, you're going to be disappointed in a lot of what you get.
It's an elevated role, but that elevator is stuck between floors as if there's been a fight between National Hockey League players. It just doesn't go any higher.
And it's dangerous to go out in between floors.
Yeah.
You
need to call the front desk.
That's right. At 4
4
in the morning.
We need a second line center.
At 4 in the morning, right? Because you're
yeah.
leaving for an early flight. That's got to be
the metaphor's
story,
there, right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Freeman reported the Canucks had a conversation with Hughes about body language. There was a play yesterday where he looks like he just gives up, and Canucks fans noticed. I don't necessarily want to ask you about the play. I want to ask you about a captain's body language, especially when it's a captain whose future with that team is a little bit uncertain. Because I can understand some things on the Quinn Hughes side in terms of the years and everything he's put into the Vancouver Canucks to see them once again back here in this uncompetitive position. I can also understand how a captain has to rise above all that, but you tell me from inside the room.
Here's my my view on this thing. Quinn Hughes is consummate professional, very highly regarded, one of the game's elite players. I don't see anything that would lead me to believe there's a body language issue. And as a captain, he would be very aware that everyone's watching him and he has to lead by example. What I see with Quinn Hughes is this. A, he's in the middle of all kinds of chatter and discussion, and it's been that way for quite some time. B, he's been heavily relied on here for a long time, and those miles take a toll on you in the normalest of seasons. We are not in a normal year. We're in a year where I have I'm at morning skates and I'm talking to Eastern Conference teams who have the easiest travel, telling me how exhausted they are, and they are so burnt because they're on the road and they're off the road and there's games and there's no practices and everyone's exhausted. It's December 3rd and guys are wiped. And when I look at Quinn Hughes, I see ice times of 29:33, 30:13, 28:19, 30:05. I can keep going and going and going, but I'll give you like another example. Last night I'm doing the Sens Habs game. There's a shift where, I kid you not, 3 guys. There was Dobson, there was Ridley Gregg, and it was Mike Matheson. All took like innocent looking bumps and checks, but were slow to get up. And I'm like, in no other year does that happen where those guys are slow to get up, but everyone is paying some kind of toll right now and playing through stuff, and they're exhausted, they're gassed. And now the reason why I bring up the Eastern Conference teams is because those are the teams with the light and fluffy travel, the 40-minute flights to get here and there. You add in Vancouver and what they have to do, for seemingly every road trip and every game. I just think like there's not a lot of gas in the tank on Quinn Hughes, and everyone's going through it, but he would be going through it like, if you guys are called Cassian Plus, if you launched a sidebar channel, Cassian Plus, Price Plus, you know what I mean? Like it's Quinn Hughes Plus right now, what he's going through. And that's more how I see it rather than body language being an issue. S&P Plus, that's your new platform.
Oh, Cassian Plus, you had it right the first time. Great idea.
Some would say that already exists.
Exactly, yeah. Cassian Price Plus, I don't know.
On the Hughes front, I
want to ask him about the Habs.
The innuendo has already begun. Dollywall's tying the Canucks because they were present scouting last night at the game you're talking about, but tied it more directly to Zach Bolduc because you watch. How likely do you think this is a winger through and through? This does not solve the center ice position at all, but you tell us what that could mean if it is a Sherwood type of trade for a guy like Bolduc.
So I talked to Bolduc about this year, and I asked him, I thought you were a centerman. Like, were you not a centerman? And he goes, yes, I was. When I was in Rimouski, I was a centerman. And I believe that was his draft year. And then from that point on, he's played the wing. But he grew up as a centerman. Is he a centerman at the NHL level? Probably not, because it's been a long time and you would need those reps and you need to know now, like, if you are or not. So he's probably more comfortable on the wing. But it's interesting that that name comes
David.
up.
Desperate times, desperate measures, right?
No, I know, I get it. But it's interesting that name comes up because early returns on that trade were marvelous for Montreal. He scored in 3 straight games to start the season. He was playing with an edge. He was playing fast, and his game really dipped. Like, he went 13 games without a goal. He went almost 13 games without a point, it felt like. And he has had success on the road this year, but has been, quite honestly, like, close to invisible for home games. It's the most bizarre thing, like the splits between the two. And so I watch Montreal a lot. I call their games. If you were to try and tell me that they were looking for a player like Kiefer Sherwood because that's what their lineup needs, I could absolutely buy that, because the thing Montreal has gone through is when they play sort of the bigger, heavier teams like LA, like Dallas. Last night against Ottawa was not a good game for them. And I know they're injured. I get that they're banged up. That has something to do with it. But they have struggled against these big, heavy teams. And if you looked at Montreal's lineup, you were an opposing coach or opposing players, you'd look at that and say, no one, like, outside of Arbor Jackeye, I don't get scared that they're going to run me out of the building or they're going to out-physical us, really. And for that team to take another step, they probably need a guy like Kiefer Sherwood. Leads the NHL in hits. He can score, like, robust presence up and down the ice. And is Zach Bolduc, even though they made the trade and the returns were great, like, is that a guy you can part with? We'll see, but it has been hot and cold for Bolduc. And now they're trying him on the top line with Suzuki and and Caulfield, rather, and they put Slavkovsky on the second line. But the first line doesn't have that same presence, that same feel that it has with Slavkovsky there. So I wonder where the correct fit is. But I think the whole reason why I can buy it, if you're trying to sell it to me, is that Montreal needs to be able to compete with big, heavy teams, and Sherwood can help with that.
Fair enough. Would they move Bolduc for a UFA Sherwood, though?
Well, they would have to think that he's going to re-sign for that, because you have cost control on Bolduc. So you'd be
sure do.
For me, that would be you're acquiring him knowing that I'm attaching, like I know what it costs to keep him around, and I'm willing to do it. But and that's, I think Montreal always looks long term. They're not a short term viewpoint team. So they'd be saying, okay, it helps us now, but also like it's hard to find players like that. So we're willing to spend the money. They also have a lot of cap space. They've done really well on these negotiations on these contracts.
Yeah. Lastly, there seems to be more smoke with Quinn Hughes in Detroit if the trade is coming this year. That Detroit's having a step-up season. They have a lot of young players. They have a lot of prospects. They have a need for a offensive difference maker. And, of course, Quinn's got some family ties. Went to the University of Michigan, lives there in the offseason. Are you seeing a fit there? Could you see a Red Wings Canucks deal on Quinn Hughes at some point this year?
I guess the reason why I can see it is because they would have a lot to offer in return. Like they have really good young players and in positions of need, right? Like if you looked down the middle, you'd be like, is it Marco Kasper? Is it Nate Danielson? Right? Like Detroit would also be in a position where if they're trading for Quinn Hughes, they want to remain a good team. And, you know, you're not going to get rid of a young piece, but you need your veteran guys in order to maintain your position and your standing. So I guess the only thing is like how many pieces does it cost you if you're if you're Detroit, right? Like you have to keep that in mind and know that like, are you going to win a Stanley Cup this year or next year? And can you keep Hughes around for a long period of time? The location helps them. Friends on the team helps them. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
Where are you on Kasper, the 8th overall pick in 2022, a rare Austrian first-round pick? Nice year last year, 37 in 77. Just the 3 goals in 27 games this year, Frank. Is this just a step back for a young player who will be onwards and upwards? Give me your
he's
scouting
a really good
on
player.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Marco Kasper. Like last year when he got to play with Larkin and Raymond, he really picked things up. But he was playing the wing. And he they want him to be a centerman, but he had his most success so far in the NHL playing the wing. Now this year, he started the preseason on a line with Kane and DeBrincat, and it was their best line throughout training camp and the preseason. There was a lot of excitement around it. What happened was Kasper was getting chances. He wasn't finishing those chances, but at the same time, he was still playing physical and with an edge and doing all the right things. He's one of those guys, like he will do all the right things. The process is great for him. It's only a matter of time until like he kind of, I guess, booms. But yeah, I'm a fan of his game. He's a no nonsense guy with some good upside.
And what about Danielson, also a top 10 pick, 9th overall in 2023, bigger boy, right shot and natural center iceman. I guess the question there is there going to be high level NHL offense? But you tell me.
That I think that's the question. The question is how high is the ceiling for Danielson, right? He's probably going to be a good player, but similar to a lot of the players that Detroit has drafted in the past, it's a high floor, but maybe not the highest ceiling. So does he turn into a superstar? Well, that probably makes it a tougher road for him, but no doubt, like he will be a very useful, very good player. But if you're trading for him, I'm just not sure like you're going to expect him to like really pop offensively. It could be strong, but modestly strong.
What about this Emmett Finney, the 7th rounder who's exploded this year?
Holy cow, what a story this kid is, huh?
Right away from training camp, he went in there and all he did was work his you-know-what off and skate. And because he was able to do that, he was able to play on a line with Larkin, which Larkin flies. Like, we know that. So you got to be able to keep up, and he did that. And I called a game early this year. It was my first game of the year. It was Montreal versus Detroit. And I had someone in the Wings dressing room tell me, watch Finney tonight. He might be faster than Larks.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's pretty impressive to say for a young kid. Like Larkin is really, he motors out there and he's powerful and he's strong. So for someone to say that about Finney, that I was really taken aback by that.
How did he last to the 7th round if he can skate like
No
that? It was
kidding.
84 points for Kamloops in 55
Not long ago.
Yeah. I suppose that was after he was drafted. Great stuff as always, Mr. Corrado. You beware of those elevators, okay?
Yeah.
That's your
I take the
moneymaker now.
stairs from now
That's the moneymaker. Protect the moneymaker. Thanks, Frank.
And just avoid Zach.
on. Yeah. See you, boys.